To understand the work of Geoffrey Chaucer, it is helpful to think of him not just as a storyteller, but as a man trying to make sense of a very volatile world. In the later part of his career, Chaucer moved away from the social satire of his earlier years and towards something much more profound and deeply philosophical. This is best seen in the two pillars of his later work: his engagement with the philosophy of Boethius and his epic tragedy, Troilus and Criseyde. While they might seem like different kinds of books, one a philosophical meditation and the other a sweeping romance, they are actually two sides of the same coin. Together, they explore the central question of the human condition. Why do good people suffer? Why does love end in heartbreak? And is there any meaning to the chaos of life? We begin with the philosophical side, which is based on the life and writings of the Roman statesman Boethius. The story starts with a man in total darkness. He is a high-ranking official who has lost everything: his status, his wealth, and his peace of mind. He is sitting in a prison cell, mourning the sudden and violent shift in his life. He feels that his suffering is random, and that the universe is fundamentally unjust. He is looking for a reason why the world has turned against him so cruelly. It is in this moment of profound despair that he is visited by a figure of immense dignity and authority, a woman known simply as Lady Philosophy. She doesn't come to offer him easy comfort or empty platitudes. Instead, she comes to diagnose his sickness. She tells him that his misery doesn't come from his loss of status, but from his attachment to things that were never truly his to begin with. She explains that he has mistaken the temporary for the eternal. The core of her teaching is the concept of the wheel of fortune. Imagine a great spinning wheel. At the top, you are a king, surrounded by luxury and power. As the wheel turns, you descend through the middle, and eventually you are at the bottom, crushed by the weight of poverty or exile. Lady Philosophy explains that the nature of fortune is to be unstable. If you seek happiness in the things that fortune provides, like wealth, fame, or political power, you are essentially building your house on a moving target. You are at the mercy of a wheel that is constantly turning. But there is a way out of this cycle, she argues. There is a distinction between fortune, which is the realm of chance and change, and providence, which is the realm of divine order. While fortune is chaotic, providence is the steady, unchanging hand of God. Lady Philosophy explains that God sees all of time, past, present, and future, not as a sequence of events, but as a single, eternal now. From our perspective, things seem to happen by accident or through bad luck, but from the perspective of the divine, everything is part of a structured, purposeful design. She tells the narrator that earthly adversity is actually a form of spiritual exercise. It is through the struggle against hardship that the soul develops virtue and learns to find stability in the supreme good, which is God, rather than in the shifting winds of the world. As we move from this abstract, cosmic realm into the concrete, bloody reality of human life, Chaucer gives us the story of Troilus and Criseyde. This is not just a story about two lovers. It is a way of seeing how the philosophical concepts of Boethius play out in the real world. The setting is the city of Troy, which is under a massive 10-year siege by the Greeks. The atmosphere is one of tension and impending doom. A prophet named Chaucer has a vision of the total destruction of Troy, and in a moment of political maneuvering, he shares this information with the Greeks. This leads to a prisoner exchange. The Trojan Antenor is to be traded to the Greeks in exchange for the beautiful and highly sought-after Greek princess Criseyde. This exchange is the catalyst for the tragedy. It tears the lovers apart. Troilus is a noble Trojan prince, and his love for Criseyde is intense, all-consuming, and almost spiritual. For him, Criseyde is the center of his universe. But Criseyde is in a much more precarious position. She is a woman in a war zone, a political pawn in a game played by men. As the siege continues, Criseyde is sent to the Greek camp as part of the exchange. This is the pivotal moment where the wheel of fortune begins to turn for her. In the Greek camp, she finds herself under the protection and the pursuit of Diomedes, a Greek soldier. Diomedes is not a villain in the traditional sense. He uses the language of courtly love and promises of security to win her over. He offers her the one thing she desperately needs in a camp full of enemy soldiers: stability and protection. This is where the narrative becomes deeply human and, for many, deeply uncomfortable. As Criseyde's circumstances change, her loyalty to Troilus begins to waver. She doesn't necessarily change because she is a bad person, but because her environment has changed. The security she once found in the arms of Troilus is gone, replaced by the immediate, terrifying necessity of survival. She begins to navigate a social landscape where her value is tied to the men who control her. Eventually, she accepts Diomedes' advances. To an observer, this looks like simple infidelity. But through the lens of the Boethian philosophy we've discussed, it looks like the inevitable movement from prosperity to ruin. Criseyde's love for Troilus was her high point on the wheel, and her shift toward Diomedes is her descent. The tragedy is that both the lovers and the city of Troy are caught in a cycle they cannot control. The personal heartbreak of the lovers is mirrored by the violent, predestined fall of the city itself. This brings us to one of Chaucer's most important ideas, the concept of gentilesse or nobility. In the world of the story, people often mistake social rank or hereditary status for true nobility. But Chaucer, following the ideas of the lady philosophy, suggests that true nobility is a matter of internal character and moral fortitude. It is not something you are born with, it is something you demonstrate through how you face the turns of fortune. The tragedy of the story is that the characters are caught between their own human agency and the cosmic forces at play. Troilus acts with a nobility of passion, but his intensity makes him vulnerable to the very emotions he cannot control. Criseyde acts with a nobility of survival, trying to navigate a world that offers her no agency, yet her choices lead to her being perceived as inconstant. The work concludes by connecting these earthly, messy, and often painful human experiences back to the celestial order. As the story of Troilus reaches its tragic end, the narrative perspective shifts upward. We see the soul's ascent through the planetary spheres, moving away from the vanity of earthly life and toward the permanence of the divine. When we look at both parts of this work together, the message isn't one of despair, but of a complex kind of hope. Chaucer is acknowledging that life is often unfair. He is acknowledging that love can lead to profound suffering and that the people we love can change in ways that break our hearts. He doesn't shy away from the reality of Criseyde's choices or the brutality of the war. However, he also suggests that this chaos is not total. The wheel of fortune may spin and the winds of chance may blow, but there is a structure beneath it all. By weaving the philosophical meditations of Boethius into the epic tragedy of Troilus and Criseyde, Chaucer is saying that our earthly struggles are part of a much larger, meaningful and divine design. The pain of the individual is real, but it is not the whole story. The story of humanity is the tension between our desire for permanent, unchanging love and the reality of a world that is constantly in motion. In the end, Chaucer invites us to look past the spinning wheel and seek a stability that the world cannot take away.